My name is Brennan Williams, and this is Go Lopes Radio. We've been saying basketball is coming, but we actually have a preview for a game that counts on the resume. It is here. GCU will be opening up against IPFW, the Mastodons, GCU's first regular season game. To break it all down, we have intern Blake, who is here. Blake, how are we doing?
Doing good. I'm excited to finally watch some real basketball that actually counts.
Yeah, let's get a quick takeaways from USC, what you saw, and I obviously took care of the recap after the game, but obviously an exhibition. But did you have any quick thoughts on that before we kind of transitioned to IPFW?
Yeah, I thought it was a great exhibition game. I think losing games, even if it's an exhibition, it's going to teach you a lot more about your team than winning the game does. And due to FA being in some foul trouble early in the game and fouled out, obviously, we had to close the game with that small ball lineup. And so my main takeaway was, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if we close more games with that small ball lineup this year, especially if Nana can hold his own at the 5, which he did pretty well, I thought, against USC.
Yeah, he's fighting.
Having another ball handler on the court. I mean, some games might be Makai, some games it might be Caleb Shaw, is going to open up so much offensive versatility for us.
Yeah, a weird game. It was definitely an interesting feel in the arena because that first few minutes, like I talked about, was so weird, and it felt like this is going to get like ugly quick. And yeah, it didn't feel like GCU played good, and then they lost by 6. It was an interesting game, but I gave all our thoughts. If you haven't listened to the USC recap, highly encourage it. We framed the exhibition game. Blake talked about it a little bit there, gave some context to it. So before we even get to our IPFW KYP, we're going to talk through them as a school, their players, all that sort of stuff. We need to talk about some news. Some exciting news broke that Ikenna Alozie, the 46th ranked player in the nation. Yes, guys, the 46th ranked player in the nation per 247 will be taking an official visit to GCU this Friday, obviously Halloween. So he will be on campus visiting the Lopes. And one thing to note, this is available via Google search, so no secret here, right? You Google the athletic director for Dream City Christian, which is where Ikenna Alozie plays. Obviously a powerhouse, kind of one of those put together basketball factory high school sort of places. Athletic director is Casey Benson. Now, that name should sound familiar. His older brother, TJ Benson, used to coach under Dan Marley, now is an assistant down at U of A. And then Casey, obviously, when TJ was coaching for the Lopes, came up and joined the Lopes from Oregon, ironically enough, for his final year of eligibility. Legendary high school player, really, really good high school player. So feels like that's maybe worth noting. But, I mean, 46th ranked player, listen, we'll see if they're able to seal the deal. There is a crystal ball in for him to Houston, but I don't know. I read that, Blake, and I was like, I kind of read it like 2 or 3 times, like 46th ranked player getting a visit to the Lopes. I feel like it's, I hate to say it's a massive win, but cool to see that recruiting momentum.
Yeah, he's a big-time player, and even if we don't get him, I think it's, like you said, still a win just to be able to recruit him and having him be in the picture.
So we'll try to keep you guys updated on that. Obviously, the message board, a great place for that as well. But let's talk some IPFW. There is no betting spread available yet for the game. Ken Palm, our good friend who does the data, has GCU predicted to beat the Mastodons by 15. I don't want to say that's as good as kind of a betting spread, but Ken Palm's usually pretty dialed on that. Obviously, we don't have a ton of data. He's just using his preseason metrics with no games, but not. I don't know. I feel like that's a fairly reasonable ask. They come in at 213 out of 360 plus ranked in the nation. IPFW. Evan Maya does have him at 175, so a little bit higher there. But when you kind of look through all the different metrics, we can probably just slot them. Let's just call it the 200th ranked team in the nation, kind of on average. And I would just say, guys, I don't want to. Just get used to it. There's going to be quite a bit of these games at home in the non-conference. These teams, the back half of college basketball, Youngstown State, who, we'll talk about at a later time, is going to be a little bit better, a little bit friskier. But I would say just get used to this. There's going to be a lot of these teams coming in GCU into the back half of college basketball. We'll see if that changes over time. Blake, you're an aggressive scheduler guy, right? We've got that on the record.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we total bypass for this year because, GCU doesn't know what conference they're going to be in. That changes everything. We'll see, what next year looks like as GCU tries to create a non-con schedule that maybe, helps them a little bit more build an at-large resume. But back to IPFW, they play in the Horizon League, and also, ironically enough, the home to GCU's next opponent, the Horizon League, Youngstown State. Kind of depends where you look. They're, IPFW's picked third or fourth in the conference, fifth. Depends where you look. And I don't know. I think you look at them, and anytime you can get in these one bid leagues, if you can be kind of in the top five when you don't have a team that's like clearly separated, to me, you're in the mix. You've got a shot. It is going to be, in these one bid leagues, it is going to be all about that tournament in March. You want to set yourself up as well as you can throughout the season to win your conference tournament. That's kind of what it comes down to. But yeah, so I don't know. We'll see if they're in the mix come March, but something to monitor. We always want to keep an eye on these teams, but they are not picked, to be one of the first, second best teams, third, fourth, fifth, the Horizon League, depending where you look. Blake, other scheduling stuff. We've got some mutual opponents to go through here between GCU and IPFW. We know obviously GCU playing IPFW is, important enough, but the Data Boys, you get some mutual scheduling, compare and contrast, that sort of stuff. Tell us about that.
Yeah, just something to monitor. They do play Utah and St. Louis this year on the non-conference, which is two GCU non-conference opponents as well. It'll be interesting just to see how they do. I mean, they'll probably lose both games by a lot, but it'll be cool to see just how they match up.
Yeah, it is tough when you're talking like resumes, you start kind of cannibalizing, and do you want, what do you kind of want? Like what results best? It's tough. I think this early too in the season, I think it's one of those things we'll kind of wait and see how it turns out, but definitely worth monitoring throughout the season. Get an idea maybe how they shape up against other teams. And we do have, for a lot of these schools that are in the back half of college basketball, it's very rare that you get a guy you can really talk about, maybe some sort of legend, some guy that maybe stayed there for a few years, maybe set some scoring records, whatever it might be. But with IPFW, we've got one, Blake. We have got an NBA guy. Would you call him bona fide? I mean, he plays consistently, but I don't know about bona fide. He's a good NBA player. He's
a solid NBA player. I mean, he's on guaranteed 3-year contract, and that's John Conchar, Memphis Grizzlies.
Money's good.
He went there all 4 years, started in 2015, 2016, 4 years there. Kind of surprising. Like you said, they actually have a solid NBA player there. He had some really good numbers. His senior year was 20 points, 8 rebounds, and 5 assists a game. And if you look at their 4-year win-loss record during that time, it was probably their best 4-year stretch that they've had ever, honestly, as a D1 school. And I think I thought it was kind of cool to see this. Honestly, it's a dying breed to see a player play at a mid-major for 4 straight years, especially a below-average mid-major. In today's college basketball, you have 1 or 2 good years at a school like that, and you'll get a huge NIL deal, and you'll transfer right up. So I thought that was cool to see.
Yeah, plus I feel like we're all a sucker for like the guy at the mid-major who, probably could move up or leave, but like especially the shooters. I mean, we're getting really random, but it's like Andrew Godlock, whoever the heck you say his name. Like you get these random guys where it's like, yes, just let it like 25, 30 times a game. Like seriously, you get over half court, just knock yourself out.
Yeah.
Those highlights are always fun to turn on, I feel like. And it is a dying breed, which stinks. We love those guys that fill it up. Yeah, so John Conchar, you talked about they, provided some really good seasons for him. But when we come to, I always use, especially now, like this COVID is kind of this perfect kind of before and after moment. I feel like college basketball's changed so much since COVID. And obviously, a turning point for a lot of programs, teams, new coaches, all that sort of stuff. So we'll use that little window since COVID. Last seasons, they finished about 500. But here's the thing. We talked about how much March matters for these teams. You've got to perform in your conference tournament, and they've only won 2 conference tournament games. So that will not get it done. They're not even making a run. There were 2 separate years they won a game. So, it's all about building that momentum. We can remember GCU's run in 2023. Those are the special moments. That's what makes college basketball great. It kind of stinks when you're one of those teams and you can't get the wheels turning, or even if you have a good season, then you don't get it done at the conference tournament with all the pressure. So they haven't had a ton of success recently from a, I guess, broad scale. Head ball coach John Kaufman, he's been with the team since 2014 and never been to the NCAA tournament. Again, I don't have a ton of comments there. I think as college basketball, we've talked about where the layers are happening, and I don't know. Like, I hate to say what you're going to do. It's not my job to also like judge if
Yeah.
he's doing his job well or not, but just wanted to note, has not made the conference tournament. And then, yeah, we don't have any like regular season, obviously with both teams playing their first game Monday, we don't have any regular season results to talk about. But we do have Blake, who did a little research on their exhibition game, their recent exhibition game now. Obviously, Blake's going to go over this. We talked about it with GCU USC. We need to put our exhibition eyes on, our exhibition goggles on. This was not a true game that counts towards the resume. All sorts of different variables that can come into it. But Blake, break down what IPFW did in their exhibition.
Yeah, like you said, not a game that mattered, but they did beat Ball State 84-70 at home. Ball State's not exactly tough competition. They're out of the MAC conference. They're projected around 250th best team in the country, and both Evan Maya and Ken Palm. Just looking at the box score, it looked like they won the game on the glass. They out rebounded them 33-20, with a couple of guards getting a ton of rebounds for them. But really, two not so great teams. Not really any huge takeaways other than the fact that they won comfortably. And Purdue Fort Wayne's, their three best players are all guards, and they're going to account for a lot of their scoring this year.
Yeah, one thing to point out before you're going to talk about some of the players here as well, but one thing to point out with these teams is, you know, you never know. Like some of these can get frisky. That like 140 to like 200 range, there's usually, I don't know, I feel like there's usually 3 or 4 teams that are always a lot better than, you know, they are. One team I think of last year was how good Bryant was once they obviously GCU, you know, destroyed them by, I think it was like 45 or something at home. And they actually had a ton of success in their conference, ended up, you know, being a little bit of a better frisky team. They had some injuries they dealt with as well. There's always a few teams that, you know, maybe even if they don't have that success in the non-con, they end up doing well in the regular season or in the conference season. So something to monitor with them. They're kind of in that area where it is also tough in like to get any sort of preseason rankings on these guys. But, you know, maybe they're frisky. That being said, they could also drop and not do as well. But take us to some of the guys on the team, Blake. Tell us a little bit about them.
Yeah, so they lost 2 first-team All-Horizon guys last year. They lost Jalen Jackson to the portal. He's at Butler now. They also lost Rashid Bello to overseas. So it's going to be tough to them. Those guys averaged a combined 35 points per game.
Yeah, going to Butler there too that's right in town.
Yeah,
it's brutal.
Yeah, it sucks. But player to look out, maybe fill those shoes, is DeAndre Craig Jr. He's a junior guard. Played the past 2 seasons at Denver. That's in the Summit League, which is overall a better conference than the Horizon League. Denver wasn't great in terms of their record. Craig was 13.5 points, 3.5 rebounds, 2.5 assists per game. He's pretty efficient, 49% from the field. And his greatest skill, he was 39% from 3 on 3.5 attempts per game, which is pretty impressive. He's a smaller guard, though, 6 foot, 170 pounds. He plays a lot bigger than he is, I will say that. He's a pretty good rebounder for his size. I think he had 6 rebounds in their exhibition game. He likes to get on the glass a lot. Like I said, pretty good shooter, definitely his best skill. You got to know where he is on the court at all times. He's not just a catch and shoot guy. He can do it off the dribble as well. But I'm not going to, I mean, he's a good player. I'm not going to sit here and act like he's better than some of these USC or Baylor guards we've already seen. He's definitely a player to keep your eye out, though, for. But I definitely think Brian Moore should win this matchup.
Yeah, I think GCU is set up so well to any undersized guard. Like, you'd have to be really, really good to be successful against GCU, even at like a higher, I feel like even a power 4 level. You'd really have to be a special smaller guy. I just feel like GCU is the personnel for that, right? I mean, Brian Moore obviously is about as strong as it gets and about as like disruptive. Yep. And then outside of that, they play a ton of size on the wing and the paint and make life hard. So it's kind of, I don't know, if you're a smaller guard, GCU has to be about as tough of a matchup as you get. Blake, why don't I'll do we're going to end with our keys to the game here. I'll go mine first, and then you can end us here. Because you just knocked out the player KYP, which we really appreciate, and talked a little John Conchar, and you talked the exhibition. So I'll take over to talk about my key for the game. So a little bit vague on this one, but I've just, it's been a lot of talk about ball movement. This team's different than last year. Last year's team was stagnant. Yes, they had the talent. These guys could take, they had a ton of freedom to kind of take the shots they wanted. This year's team's going to be balanced, which is something we've talked about. They're going to move the ball. This thing's going to be ripping around. They're going to run, and they're going to, not be sloppy, but right. That's what Bryce has talked about. I gotta be honest. I haven't quite seen that in the exhibition games. Now, maybe there's like Jaden Henley. They're trying to get him as much run at that guard position they can, without obviously affecting resume. But the ball is not, in my opinion, against USC, didn't seem to rip around a whole lot. Obviously, it was a kind of grind you down sort of game. And assists is a tough metric because it can be it's not necessarily maybe the best telling for like ball movement, but I'd love to see that number over 15. You're playing a not good team necessarily, obviously having played Baylor and USC. Last year, GCU averaged a little over 13, right? So we're talking about last year's team where it was kind of stagnant. They still had a little over 13 assists a game, kind of middle of the pack in the country. They had 12 at Baylor. So I don't know. I just think they had a ton of turnovers against USC. I would love to see that number get over 15. I'd love to see that ball move around. I'd love to see 3-4 guys in double digits and just less kind of standing there hoping stuff gets created and hanging out on the 3-point line and ISO. And even if they're going to be able, they're clearly going to have better success if they want to do that than they would against USC, right? It's IPFW.
Yeah.
But I, regardless, still want to see that ball move, rip around, and start to kind of build some of that chemistry. So that's my key to the game. I know it's kind of vague to just say assists over 15 ball movement, but I think for the amount Bryce has talked about it, we've heard about it from this group and the expectations. I think we need to really actually see it because I don't think we've seen it or had the results yet that we were expecting to see.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's a good take. For my keys to the game, I sort of had 2 and 1, but it starts with not letting their guards beat you. Their best 3 players are all guards who are all 6'3" and below. They're going to account for a lot of their scoring this year. And so with their best 3 players all being guards that are smaller, they're not going to have big lineups in. I think their tallest guy is listed at 6'9". I think they have a couple 6'8" guys, but I'm going to be honest, they don't look very good. So this is a game where I think our size can dominate them. I think if FA can hopefully stay out of foul trouble, this is a game where he can use his size for offensive rebounding. I would love to see some back to the basket post scoring for him. It's also a game where I think Nana can use his size as well. I don't want to say he'll break out because he hasn't actually played a real game yet, but I think we'll see a game where we see a higher field goal percentage from him. I wouldn't be surprised to see a double-double from him. But we'll be in a really good spot.
We've seen the motor help him out on defense and rebounding, but we'd love to see the motor help out on being able to score. I think that's a helpful, useful tool, and it hasn't been so far offensively.
Exactly, yeah, and I think it's a perfect matchup for him to really get a higher percentage shooting, like I said.
Yeah, those short guards. Last point on that too, and why it's so important is those guys run hot. We know that. I think of last year's game, UC Davis, who was 230, I think, 240, they're ranked in the nation, and T.Y. Johnson. I remember he's a little smaller. He comes in and he wasn't super efficient, but he was able to kind of dictate the game. And he got to the line quite a bit and just, kind of was getting in passing lanes. And when you let those smaller guards, you should beat up on them pretty regularly. You got to, and when they're on defense, you got to beat them up, right? But if you let them get going, it can get, they can link, these teams can linger, right? They can hit a 3 and get excited. So I think you're spot on. Do not let those guys get going. Don't let them hit a 3 and look back at the bench and get all excited and turn to the Havocs. We don't want any of that. So those are our keys to the game, guys. Some assists, some ball movement, and then Blake wants to see FA dominate a little bit, as well as Nana down low, and then keep those guards in check. So any other news and notes for the game, Blake? And I can close this out.
I don't think so. I mean, I think we should win this game. 15, 20 points is what I'm hoping for. So it'll be a good game to warm up with, I think.
Yeah, and you mentioned it maybe feels a little you can't just pick a number and say they need to win by this amount. It's no, they kind of do need to win by a certain amount. That's how this stuff works now.
It matters.
You look into everything. It's
yep.
I don't, this idea of, just win, that doesn't work when, you have a decent chunk of these games at home. You've got to win big. That's how you build a resume. It's annoying, but that's how this stuff works. You can't fight it. You've got to win big. You can't let teams linger, and you've got to blow them out when you've got the opportunity. So that's a really good point. But guys, that's it. GCU's first game, Monday, November 3rd, 7 p.m. at GCU Arena. They host Purdue Fort Wayne. If you aren't local, game is available to stream on Mountain West Network. So make sure you toss that stream on. You probably have your app already downloaded from the USC game. And then last kind of note to make, Arizona, we know they're weird with their daylight savings time. We will be in Mountain Time. So I know if you're in another time zone, if you're Pacific time, make sure you plan accordingly. That game should start at 6 your time, if I'm doing my math correct. So just make sure you're ready for that, because that can kind of sneak up on us. But 7 p.m. GCU Arena, we have actual college basketball. College basketball tipping off across the nation. Keep an eye on those other Mountain West teams as well. And man, I'm excited. We'll have a reaction after the game combined with a Youngstown State preview as well. We'll combine those as well after the game. So excited for that. This thing, it's happening. It's going to be great to kind of react to some actual basketball and see some other scores. So Blake, thanks for hopping on. We appreciate it. And cheers.